What is up, everybody? I want to talk to you a little bit about Star Wars, sort of how it's influenced my life, um, the generational aspect of Star Wars. Me growing up with Star Wars, my younger brother getting into Star Wars. I remember taking my youngest brother's 13 years younger than me, and I remember taking him to see um, the prequel films in the theaters when he was a kid. I was late teens, early 20s at that point. And then my nephew and my niece getting into Star Wars. And the fact that Star Wars has been all sorts of different types of things to different peoples. It's been films, it's been TV shows, it's been the Christmas special, it's been the Ewok TV movies, it's been tabletop games, it's been books, it's been comic books, it's been just video games, mobile games. It's been all sorts of different things: lunchboxes, underwear, sheets, magnets, action figures. You name it. Star Wars has been there for people around the world for generations. It is quite possibly the biggest science fiction franchise in the history of the world, and it is something that has always been about that the child inside of all of us. George Lucas has said this multiple times, that he always made those films for kids. And when kids grow up, sometimes those kids, when they become adults, they forget how to find that inner child, right? They either smother it or they let it die. And for some people, it goes back to the idea of Peter Pan and Never Never Land, and adults lose their way and they can't see magic, and they let other things get in the way of the magic of the imagination. And I see so much discourse, um, especially from people whose livelihood comes from rage bait. In other words, making internet videos that are purely there for the sake of provoking the irrational rage and hatred of people whose inner child has died. And it's very unfortunate to me. I think it's very sad when and when I talk about my love of Star Wars and enjoying everything that comes out from Star Wars. I will criticize things, absolutely. Like, I remember when the most recent trilogy of movies came out from Disney. Um, those were definitely not my favorite films, but I recognize them as an important part of the evolution of Star Wars. And my nephew, who is almost 9 years old, thinks that The Last Jedi is like the best film he's ever seen. And I'm not going to take that away from him just because I don't think that it's the best Star Wars film ever made. Um, and nor will I, try to poop all over his Cheerios because he loves that trilogy of films, and I cringe when I hear, somehow Palpatine has returned. Like, that's not, for me, it's not the greatest moment in Star Wars. But I'm not the owner of Star Wars. I'm not the creator of Star Wars. I'm just a fan. And as a fan, I am always going to love a galaxy far, far away. And I'm always going to enjoy a galaxy far, far away. And I'm always going to strive to let my inner child live and breathe and continue to find enjoyment in all things Star Wars, regardless of whether it's an animated show or a TV show, live action, whether it's owned by Disney. I see a lot of people who like to criticize Disney for the decisions they've made. And in the same breath, these are the same people who, 20 years ago wanted to crucify George Lucas for the prequel films, and then suddenly that's all well and forgotten. And then we have fans who seem to have forgotten the Ewok films and the Christmas special, and how everyone was irritated and upset with George Lucas for those things. And yet those are, somehow all those sins have been forgotten and, put under the table over the years. And I think that that's something where people just have to remember that at the end of the day, Star Wars is created for kids. And if you're not enjoying Star Wars, it's because you've let the adult in you get in the way. and you've spoiled the magic. And you need to find a way to get back to that. Now, I know some of you make a living on rage bait and rage clicks, and if you want to pursue that, that's fine. That'll never happen on my channel. To steal a quote from another great science fiction franchise that I love, anytime I see someone trying to be negative about Star Wars or trying to claim that Star Wars is dead or that Disney's ruined Star Wars, I always come back and say, you can't take the sky from me. You can't. Like, I will always enjoy it. And just because you don't enjoy it doesn't mean that I'm suddenly going to stop enjoying it. Nor does it mean that my 9-year-old nephew doesn't have the right to enjoy it in his own way, or my 7-year-old niece, 6-year-old niece, and her being able to enjoy it in her way. And when they become older and they're kids, and I don't have children of my own for various reasons, but I like to think that the generations of my siblings and their kids will be able to continue to enjoy Star Wars long after I'm gone. But I know for me, I plan on enjoying Star Wars until they put me in the grave. I've been enjoying it since I was, as far back as I can remember, 3 or 4 years old. I was slightly too young to see it in the theaters. I was born in 1980. But when I was a kid, growing up and just watching those VHS tapes with the family over and over and over. And then, I remember growing up in the Star Wars drought when there wasn't anything coming out throughout the 80s and into the 90s until he started producing the extended universe novels, which were never canon. They were just sort of extended universe things. That's always a fun one to me when people who don't like Disney try to go back and cherry pick the things that they think are canon, and those things were never canon. George Lucas is the only one who was ever able to dictate what canon was because he was the creator and owner of the IP, and then when he passed the torch on to Disney, Disney's the one who gets to pick what is or isn't canon. And it doesn't mean the rest of it suddenly ceases to exist or can't be enjoyed. It just means that when it comes to the official canon, you and I aren't the ones who get to decide that. It's the owners of the intellectual property who do. That's how copyright works. That's how trademarks work. And all we can do as fans is choose to either enjoy or not enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, that's absolutely your prerogative. But I don't think that it's right to try to dictate to other people that they shouldn't also be allowed to enjoy it, especially when it comes to kids, because that's what it's designed for, is kids. And as someone who is a 44-year-old man who still has a inner child, alive and well and living in, I like Star Wars. I'm having a lot of fun with the Acolyte. I'm having a lot of fun with all the Star Wars stuff. I can't wait for the Skeleton Crew. I can't wait for the Mandalorian movie. I can't wait for the next season of Andor, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for the next season of Ahsoka. And whatever comes next after that, as Disney expands upon the High Republic era. We've got Star Wars Outlaws coming out in a few months. I'm going to be streaming the hell out of that game, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, I guess I'm just kind of, the other night we were sitting here as a family, as I'm visiting here out of my office and enjoying Star Wars as a family. And I'm thinking about all the angry white old dudes on the internet who are pissed off about us enjoying as a family the Acolyte and other Star Wars related materials from Disney. And it's unfortunate. I wish that all of you could find a way to embrace that inner child once again, because George Lucas created this stuff for you, the children out there. And if you've lost that magic, if you've somehow lost your way, I hope you can find your way back, because Star Wars is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And those of us who are true Star Wars fans are going to continue enjoying it and living in that galaxy far, far, far away until the day we die. May the Force be with you, everyone.